Good morning, everyone. It's our pleasure to bring to you this webinar on regulatory and operational considerations when sourcing cellular starting materials and ancillary products for cell and gene therapy development and commercialization. Following our discussion, we should take a couple of questions, time permitting. So let me introduce the panel here. My name is Parijat Jain, and I'm the Vice President and General Manager of Cell and Gene Therapy Business Unit at BioIVT, and I'll be your host. We also have with us Matt Chorley. He's our Vice President, Global Quality at BioIVT.
Thank you, Parijat. Very happy to be here.
Absolutely, Matt. Next, we have Wini Luty with us. She's our Senior Director of Operations and Head of Cell and Gene Therapy Business Unit Operations at BioIVT.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
Great. Let us get straight into our panel discussion then. In the recent past, advanced therapies have proven to be critical in advancing healthcare and improving patients' lives and disease outcomes. Today, there are over 3,700 cell and gene therapies in development. Given the significance of this space, it's imperative that quality by design thinking is incorporated in the development and commercialization of these solutions. In addition, there is a need for standards for manufacturers procuring raw materials for cell treatments. Today, we shall discuss both these aspects. Matt, let's start with you. What factors must a cell therapy manufacturer take into account when considering cellular starting material? Can you throw some light on the regulatory compliance and quality aspects?
Certainly, Parijat. Cell therapy establishments should consider the cellular starting material as one of the most critical aspects in their development. While our need and our requirement as critical raw material suppliers is to have robust and reproducible processes designed and implemented around this most critical raw material, unpacking the regulatory requirements and guidances can be very tricky. Because remember, we're making a cell therapy, but we're also making a drug product. And several regulations and guidances have been written to help firms create and maintain compliance and best practices. Plugging all of these together can be difficult, however, for cell therapy firms as well as CDMOs. It is important in any thoughts about this or any design thinking to reference and include minimally USP 1043, USP 1046, and USP 1047. These guidances, as put out by the USP, are intended to help cell therapy firms get from point A to point B and get their products on market. We cannot also not include, of course, CFR 21, parts 210 and 211, because remember, we're making a drug product, so these must be taken into consideration, as well as, of course, CFR 21, part 1271, because we are procuring tissue or cellular starting material, depending on the nature of the product that we're producing. But the bottom line, again, is that we need to create a robust and reproducible process that should be aligned with all of our thoughts in creating processes around these products. Our goals should be to create a GMP process because GMP allows for this. As I've mentioned, the US FDA have developed what are called the GTPs, the Good Tissue Practices, in CFR 21, Part 1271. The GTPs are important and have been developed for the safety and consistency of raw material suppliers of tissues and cellular starting materials, and those who are providing these starting raw materials to cell therapy firms. For raw materials suppliers producing cellular therapy starting materials, as they partner with cell therapy firms and or CDMOs, it is important for the cell therapy firms to be procuring from a GMP and GTP compliant supplier minimally by phase 2 of drug development. However, it is best practice to do so earlier. Let me discuss why. Some of the challenges that you might think of are here. So important questions are, how will not addressing having a GMP supplier impact the speed of therapy getting to market? And why is it so important to have a dedicated supplier with recallable donors that is compliant with GTPs and GMPs? Can a manufacturer of a cell or gene therapy switch suppliers midstream, and what is the impact? And why do manufacturers need a primary and backup supplier of cellular starting materials? The most critical and variable raw material in the process of producing a cell therapy. Think about the hardship that could be created. If the hardship is created and we have not addressed this in preclinical or in our design and development work, think about the roadblock we can run into in phase 2 of development, for example, if that's the point we chose to switch from RUO materials to GMP materials. Phase 2 should be the minimum point that we switch. It's actually much better to address this earlier in the process. So this chart is directly taken from US 1043 and 1046 and adapted, and it looks at the increasing expectations for GMP as a drug developer or a cell therapy developer, which are the same thing, move through the drug development pipeline through the phases of development. Minimally in phase 2 of development, the expectation of the agencies is that products are being procured from a GMP supplier that, in our case, since we're making a cell therapy, is both GMP and GTP compliant. So if we put in all this great development work and we haven't taken this into consideration early in development, and we wait till phase 1 or phase 2 to get a supplier who can supply GTP, GMP compliant cellular starting materials, what does that do to all of the development work we've done to date? Is more pilot work required, for example? Is additional validation work required? Is additional supplier qualification required? Think about those roadblocks. I think if we haven't done this yet, we've hit those roadblocks. So in not addressing the qualification of a GMP and GTP compliant supplier of cellular starting material, it will cause some or all of the following in mid to late stages of clinical development for cell therapy qualification of a GMP supplier. Further qualification work will have to be done on the supplier. Additional regression testing will have to take place. Additional product validation work will need to take place. If PPQ has been performed, part or all of PPQ may have to be repeated. And I think we've hit that significant delay in getting our product on market. Just think about having to do all these things when you've laid all the groundwork in your therapeutic development up to phase 2, and you've got to make that switch. Think about the delays and challenges this will cause.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. That was quite informative. Let me bring Wini into the conversation here. Wini, what do you think could possibly be some other challenges and considerations from starting material or donor-centered perspective?
From a donor perspective, it's important to note that switching from one donor to another or from one donor pool to another donor pool might result in product and process variability. Having reliable and recallable donors is important for consistency. cell therapy manufacturers must have a broad sourcing base of GMP and GTP compliant suppliers. In turn, these suppliers need to have a large donor base in order to support later stages of clinical testing. BioIVT has the largest donor network in the industry, and as a single organization, BioIVT has more donor center locations than any other competitors. Additionally, it's also important for manufacturers of cell therapies to have a primary and backup vendor for this most critical raw material in order to meet market demands and to support their supply chain. And as Matt mentioned earlier, qualifying a supplier early in the development from RUO stages ensures a quicker path to commercialization.
Thank you, Wini. We touched upon the GMP and GTP earlier. Matt, coming back to you, can you elaborate a bit more on the GMP and GTP requirements for cell therapies, please?
Certainly. So the expectation is you have a qualified supplier and you have a qualified backup supplier, as Wini has mentioned. So the cost to switch a supplier can take extensive time, and the qualification of a new supplier can be very costly. Additionally, we should always be following best practice in quality by design. Then all of this is an expectation of the FDA as well as the European Medicines Agency, and the requirements are increasing in the US and abroad and becoming more harmonized. There are some out there who will say, well, Matt, these aren't explicitly called out in the regulations, and that's absolutely true. However, if you have lived this, which I have, it is an expectation of both agencies that you will have done this, and you will have qualified a primary as well as a backup supplier who is GMP and GTP compliant. It's an agency expectation.
So to rephrase, even after reviewing the regulatory requirements around cell therapy and raw material suppliers, the cell therapy manufacturer must additionally do a raw material risk assessment in accordance with the requirements of all relevant authorities in the space. We know that cellular starting materials are considered tier 4 raw material, right? The highest risk. Why do you think the risk assessment we just discussed is so important, Matt?
I think it's very important because, once again, we are trying to look for having process consistency and a reproducible and very robust process. And so in considering the process inputs, the things that we put into the process, the cellular starting material is the most variable starting material. That's why it's classified by USP as a tier 4 raw material. That makes the expectation go up that those that are producing cell therapies are procuring those materials and upgrading manufacturing to a GMP level and making sure their suppliers have done so as well. And so this is a great pullout from USP 1043, which is also referenced in USP 1046, to use as guidance for a risk assessment. And as you can see, tier 4 raw materials are rated as the highest risk, such as cellular starting materials, and an upgrade to a manufacturing at a GMP level is a requirement. It's critical.
Thank you, Matt, for those valuable insights. Let's pivot to Wini, our operations head. Wini, can you discuss BioIVT network, our offerings for the cell therapies, and maybe also touch upon why should the customers partner with us?
Sure, Parijat. As you can see, BioIVT is a global company with donor centers and labs across the world that can provide biospecimens to carry you from preclinical stages to clinical stages of development. As I mentioned earlier, BioIVT has the largest footprint of donor centers in the industry. In total, we have 10 donor centers spread across East Coast and West Coast in the US and also in the UK. And within these donor centers, we have recallable donors that are highly characterized. Our donors are HLA typed, and we have a full data set of different donor demographics. In addition to that, we also capture other key factors that are important for raw materials, such as health history, smoking status, and medications. And our vast network of recallable donors really is unmatched. At BioIVT, we provide fit-for-purpose solutions for our customers. The important raw material solutions that we have for the cell therapy space include both RUO and GMP leukopaks, mobilized leukopaks with the option of several different dosing regimens, both RUO and GMP human AB serum, and a variety of different isolated immune cells, including hematopoietic CD34 stem cells, PBMCs, and immune cell subsets from both human and various animal species to support preclinical studies. In addition to all of that, BioIVT also has a vast network of collection sites for disease state material to help support discovery. But what really differentiates BioIVT beyond our large network of recallable donors and our GMP capabilities is our partnership to customers to really provide customized collections and processing in order to ensure those fit-for-purpose solutions. So why partner with us? Our consultative approach provides solutions that are really tailored to fit our customers' specific needs and requirements. BioIVT has unparalleled access to biospecimen ranging from animal models to both healthy and disease state human biospecimen. And our ability to provide a broad portfolio of raw materials, both RUO and GMP compliant, help to support customer needs from discovery all the way to clinical. In addition, our regulatory compliance and quality is really the driving force behind all we do and is a part of our core values as a best-in-class company. From every aspect of the procurement process, from collections all the way to packaging and shipping, BioIVT will help find the right materials or the specific donors to meet your needs.
Thank you, Wini. As we discussed, cellular material is the most critical raw material. Cell therapy developers need to be flexible, efficient, cost-effective, and compliant. Therefore, very early in the development cycle, they should qualify and partner with a supplier who is capable of supplying RUO and GMP and GTP compliant starting material. This is the fastest route to getting the product into the clinic and improve patient outcomes. BioIVT presents itself as a strong strategic partner for your cell therapy needs. I would like to thank our panelists, our organizers, as well as the audience for their time. In conclusion, at BioIVT, we are very pleased as a company to be collaborating and supporting such important work within cell therapy development and commercialization. Now we'll take audience questions.